Now to an issue that needs international attention. A notorious Al-Qaeda magazine encouraging lone wolf terrorist attacks on U.S. CEOs, including leaders of big techs. There is a hit list of billionaires such as Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, and Warren Buffett. Republican strategist Kayleigh McEnany is with me now. Democratic strategist Simon Rosenberg as well. So, Kayleigh, I'm going to start with you. So close to the 9/11 anniversary, is this just a competition for the worst kind of PR possible?
Yes, that's certainly part of this. You know, it's a very frightening scenario when you have ISIS competing against Al-Qaeda for headlines. So that's definitely part of it. But, you know, I go back to something Dick Cheney said, and I think it's a sad, a very scary warning, but he foresaw down the road another 9/11 sort of attack, just as deadly or deadlier. And I think that his warning is true, particularly in the context of an administration that has done essentially nothing to stop terrorism except signal weakness to the world by negotiating with our enemies, by not leaving a stay-behind force in Iraq. I could go on and on. So I think that when you combine this competition with a weak president, it spells trouble.
Simon, as far as your take, is this a blatant sort of, I don't know, cry for help? Cry for what?
Well, it's consistent with Al-Qaeda's strategy going back decades. Remember, they targeted the World Trade Center multiple times. They saw American financial power as one of our most potent weapons in the world. So this is not a new strategy. And I agree with my colleague that this is a competition for news. But we also should recognize that in terms of terrorism here in the United States, there have been far fewer terrorist attacks against Americans during the Obama administration than there was in the previous administration. There isn't some kind of global ascent against Americans around the world and here in the United States. But we must remain vigilant. We must be tough. We must continue to take the fight to the terrorists as the president is doing now.
All right. Speaking
of Fort Hood, there have been innumerable attacks. There have been innumerable attacks. Yeah. You look at Fort Hood, you look at the attack on the cartoonist. There are emboldened lone wolves in this country because they don't respect this presidency. And so we've seen several terrorist attacks. There have been many under this administration.
But thousands of Americans died during the Bush administration due to terrorism. Only a handful have died during the Obama administration. There's not been an ascendance of attacks against the United States. It's just false and wrong.
All right. Well, moving on, because I want to focus on something that is related to this nuclear deal in Iran. Of course, we know that Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump railed against the deal. He was hosting a rally on Capitol Hill.
Never, ever, ever in my life have I seen any transaction so incompetently negotiated as our deal with Iran. We are led by very, very stupid people. Very, very stupid people.
So one reason that Trump does seem to be gaining popular support is because he's tapping into fear. He is tapping into frustration. Simon, what is your take?
There's no doubt about that. I mean, there are a lot of Americans frustrated about the way that Washington works with their own economic circumstances. Donald Trump has become a very formidable candidate in this race. He is clearly the front runner in the Republican field. And I think that Republicans are getting used to the fact that he may actually be their nominee. I disagree with him on this particular issue. I agree with him on some of the other things that he said. But on this issue of Iran, I think we've gotten a good deal. I think this is the right thing for the United States, for our own national security interests. And I know we'll be having a vigorous debate about this in the weeks to come.
Kayleigh, I want to bring you in on this idea of Trump. As we just heard from Simon, maybe it is likely that he becomes, we don't know how this is going to go, still more than a year to go, but Trump and Cruz seem to be working a little bit more together. Is that an alliance that could win?
That is certainly an alliance that could win. Look, they are the warriors of the Republican Party. They are what this country is craving for. This country wants someone to stand up and say, I'm going to make America strong again, exactly what Donald Trump's saying. And then Ted Cruz brings in some of the substantive heavyweight. His speech today was marvelous, harping on some of the terrible things in this deal, like giving a maniacal leader $100 billion, allowing Iran to get nuclear weapons in 10 years. You know, Cruz is bringing the substance and the boldness. And then you have Donald Trump really hammering home the boldness. This would be a formidable pair that could certainly beat Clinton.